Welcome to Truthzilla. Here with you another week. What is this, week 6 now, guys? We're rolling, man. Loving it. Yeah, I'm Ed, and we have the beautiful Megan on my right and the lovely Scott on my left. See, Scott, that's how you do it without making someone feel less than.
Okay, all right.
See how we do that? Oh, sorry. Just I thought of that.
I like
it's
it.
good,
I like
good
it.
times.
Sorry, Ed.
So
I deserve that.
No, but anyways, I think last week, man, we Scott and Sean, man, you guys went deep on the Fed. And, we were all going deep, but I feel like you guys were rolling, going deep.
I feel bad leaving you guys out there.
Well,
you guys carried it pretty well.
We decided to kind of go with a little bit more off the cuff episode this time, and before we're going to talk about some echo chambers, some groupthink, and some of the things
mentality.
These things that we're seeing that are like. That are really a problem.
Yeah,
and they maybe weren't as big a problem, but since the craziness that our life has become since COVID and all this stuff, like it's a problem now because you're walking us right into the new world order.
Yep.
And anyways, before we get into all that, though, I think that we have a little bit of our, what's going on this week that we'll talk about. And I would like to start that off with just a little clip that we heard of a radio host, John Ziegler. You may have seen this, you may have not seen this, but man, this is just, it exemplifies, I think, what a lot of us are feeling.
I got to say, too, real quick, too, I think it's so funny last week. Like, I know we have haters out there. Because we're speaking the truth. This is how I know. Because somebody thumbs down our Federal Reserve episode. We're talking about the fucking Federal Reserve. Like, who's thumbs down in that? Someone's going out of their way to thumbs that down? Like, get out of here,
maybe
dude.
we got the bankers listening in.
Yeah, maybe.
The cartel's checking in.
Yeah, for sure, maybe. But anyway, it's just, that means we're just doing our job. Means we're doing our job. All right, here's John Ziegler.
Next up is John Ziegler, and then Deborah Baber will be in
Look
after.
at that guy in his freaking mask, dude. God. It's diabolical. Oh, wipe the counter. Make sure you wipe
After
that
waiting
counter.
for 2 hours and now getting 2 minutes, I'll get right to the point. This board is pretending that for the last 3 months, your emperor, Dr. Levin, has not been against a mask declaration. Now, all of a sudden, we're pretending that masks are everything, even forcing speakers to use masks. I would like the board to take a position. Was Dr. Levin wrong for those 3 months? And if he was this wrong, why has he not been removed? Why has he not been fired for being so catastrophically wrong? Or do you not really believe he was wrong? You're just wearing these masks because it is a signal of your great virtue. Damn. Because for the last 3 months, we have not worn them, and Ventura County has done outstandingly well and continues to do outstandingly well because we are not Los Angeles, we are not New York City, we never were going to be any of those things. Ironically, this is one of the few things Dr. Levin was actually right about. He has been wrong about everything. He is the one who told us we would have 400 to 600 hospitalizations a day. He revised that to 200 to 400 a day. We still haven't reached that in 1 day. We're barely over 200 for the entire ordeal that you guys have put us through. We now are panicked over 51 total hospitalizations in a county with 8 hospitals. Can you people do math? Can you please do basic math and understand where we are on this? This is not a crisis. You, however, have created one.
Yes.
You, in an effort to try to prevent all death, when we've had 43 deaths, have now ended all relevant life.
Yes.
And you should all be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah.
And this will never be forgotten. Ever be forgotten. You will all be held accountable eventually. In this life or the next. You all better hope there is no hell, because when you die, that's where you're going. And guess what? You're not going to be dying of COVID either.
Damn, John Ziegler.
Oh, man, dude.
Yeah,
you getting it.
Oh,
Ditto,
I like
ditto.
him.
Yeah, totally.
So now, what's this thing? Like,
Wait a
okay,
second, we're gonna get another
so
one
there would
here,
be the argument that, well, that's because we locked everything down. That's because we're wearing the mask that there's no
sure.
deaths,
Well,
right?
then what about Sweden? What about Sweden?
Yeah.
Yeah, JB Hanley's been posting all the statistics from Sweden. Sweden's done with the virus, just so you guys know. Look at their death graph. They're done. And I will say, ours has had a little bit of an uptick, but, it depends on how you look at this thing, but they're creating fear all over again. And at the same time, we went into this thing knowing we were going to flatten this curve. Did we think that we weren't going to let people out and get more cases? I mean, I think it's inevitable that we're going to get more cases.
Mm-hmm.
Well, plus the testing is through the roof. So they're testing. So we're going to have more numbers, and they're still talking about all these new cases, but they're not talking about the fact that these people are likely home recovering 99.7 whatever % of them.
Certainly.
They're home. They're fine. They're recovering. And again, I'm going to say people die, people get sick. This is a virus with a over 99% recovery rate is not a pandemic.
99.74%.
Not a pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. I really think, obviously that's for a very specific place, Ventura County. But I think a lot of us can relate, whether we're in Ventura County or wherever you're at. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have 3 deaths in Lane County. Mm-hmm. We have 3 deaths. That's 1 a month. Why the hell am I locked up? Why the hell am I wearing a mask? Yeah. And despite all that, I mean, the mask thing has become the new hot topic as of late. But, I mean, the reality is they have their bad science and we have a little bit better science. But whether or not the science, it's like no one's ever studied when you mask the whole world. Right. This is a new thing we're doing. But I mean, we locked down the whole world for this thing, and we can see in Sweden that they didn't lock down. And they're done. We could be done, except we've extended this by putting everybody inside. And now we're trying to mask. We're trying to save every death.
So sorry. So, no. I mean, what's the point? What is everyone waiting for with these masks? Like, when are people... So, everyone who's just on board with this mask mandate, when are they thinking the end date is?
You posted that meme, and I love it. It's like, when are we going to be done
When
with
are
masks?
you guys done? What's the answer for you? What are you waiting for? Is it for the government to tell you it's A-okay? Because where this is going, it's going to be A-okay after you get a vaccine, and there's no way anybody can deny that. So what are you waiting for to take your liberties back? Because at the end of the day, no matter what you believe about this, all of this is in violation of Constitution. That's the issue here. We're talking about principles. We're talking about ethics and the way that democracy is supposed to run. This is not supposed to run under a new world order agenda before it's not even come fully to pass. And yet here everybody sits and watches it just come down on all of our backs, and we're just waiting for them to tell us it's okay to take the mask off. So it's kind of, and I'm frustrated about the mask thing too, because I was essentially refused service for not masking my minor child earlier this week. So I'm pissed.
Yeah, let's
I'm
hear
pissed.
about that. You can talk about this one because this is a corporation.
Okay, so I don't know if this is, and I want to be fair. I want to always be fair and say I don't know if this is a corporation stance.
Sure.
But am I allowed to say where I went?
Sure.
Okay, so I frequent Big Five Sporting Goods. A lot. I have kiddos and we're always on the go, and there's one right by my house. So we're in there all of the time. They pretty much know us by now. Okay. Certainly. So I walk in, and just against all of my own personal ethics, I have my fucking mask on, it says Kate the Tyrant and
Kate Brown, our wonderful governor of Oregon.
Well, yeah, Katie.
Kate Brown shirt.
Good old Katie.
Fucking Kate. So, anyways, I have this mask on. I have my kiddo with me, and they tell me, "Ma'am, excuse me, but everybody has to be masked to be in the store." And I'm like, well, my minor child's not going to be masked. That's not going to happen. I was immediately pissed off because to me also, like, common sense is if you see somebody walk into a store and they're masked up and the one person with them is not, there's a reason for that. Yes, there's a fucking reason for it. Because otherwise, it's not like I was in there with like 12 people and we're just in there going, well, fuck Kate Brown, although fuck Kate Brown. But that wasn't the case this day. So I said, my child's not subject to the governor's illegal mandate. And she said, well, I'm going to have to get the manager because, she doesn't look like, she's young enough to not be wearing a mask. And I flipped out. I was a Karen in there. I don't know. I was kind of like waiting, like, oh God, is like local Facebook going to be me on someone's cell phone screaming fascists at the Big Five employees as I left? So anyways, Big Five, regardless, our business dealings are done. You have made many, many thousands and thousands of dollars off of my family. We're in there all of the fucking time. And if you're going to refuse service to me over your own personal agenda, or you're allowing your employees to push their personal agenda when all of this is in violation of the Constitution to begin with, and then further tell me that my minor child, in order for me to even spend to give you my money, that you're gonna enforce it. No, done, just done. So anyway,
don't blame you.
Yeah, and I just I want to take just one step further in the COVID before we break into our topic of the evening. One more thing that Dell covered this week, Dell Bigtree, the high wire. If anything, if we get you to watch the high wire as well, we would have done our jobs, I believe, here. They're maybe not telling you about the New World Order, but they're showing you how bad the science is that they're basing this thing on. And they're showing you every week. They're bringing in doctors and epidemiologists and scientists every week. And so, anyways, this week he had Vladimir Zelenko, a medical doctor out of New York that's been treating people with hydroxychloroquine, a mixture of hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and azithromycin. And he explains how it all works. And his results are he had, I had 2,200 patients. He had 800 of them he decided to use his treatment on because the rest of them didn't need any treatment because most people that get this disease don't need to do anything because that's how serious this virus is most people, their bodies just kick its ass. But anyways, the people that he did use this regimen on, he had 2 people die out of 800 that he decided to use it. 2 people out of 2,200 people that he treated. So he's basically proved, and I would suggest you just listen to it come out of his own mouth. He's the one that also wrote a letter to the president that said, here's my results, and recommended that you should use the hydroxychloroquine. He didn't say for sure that that's why Trump said he was using it, but he said pretty much he referenced him in his news conference without saying his name. So anyways, I just believe, in these are his words as well, is that realistically, when we look back at this thing, I think we could have saved 100,000 lives in our country if we were using this. But the problem is this is $20. This is the guy that said it. He said it costs $20 to cure someone. $20. Now, if you think that all these drug companies that have invested billions of dollars in this vaccine are going to let this happen, that is what's going on right now. Yeah. And if this is the problem with groupthink. This is the problem with getting all your news from one place that's also fed by the drug companies. Yep. It's all being controlled by the same people. Is you're not seeing this information because what they're showing you are studies where they're using amounts that are killing people. They're using amounts of hydroxychloroquine that they know are lethal.
Right.
And it's hard for me to let this one go because it just pisses me off to no end. Because if it were my mother or my grandparent or someone close to me, and I can't get this treatment because the FDA pulled it because of all this bullshit, like it's your family is dying because of this. And anyways. Please look into it. Please look into it, and you have to see both sides. And I think a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is just that when you only get the side that is the controlled message, and let's just get into it.
Let's do it.
Let's just get into it.
Let's do it, man.
Let's pull up this meme that I think that really started off. When this whole thing started. Before we were podcasting out about this thing, before everything, there was, I think that we all came from a world where we were already, like, our conspiracy hairs on the back of our neck were all going off when this thing happened.
When they shut down sports, I was like, whoa, dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is this is a big deal. They shut down all sports forever. Like, it seems like forever, dude. Like, what the hell?
But now with the division, this is
I'm not even a sports fan, I was like, what?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Agreed,
yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Agreed, though. Yeah.
Totally. This is one of the memes that I had a friend post like probably 2 months ago. And it's funny, I went back and looked to find the meme and we're not friends anymore. Big surprise, But let's just read this out loud and I think we'll all have a bit to say on it. It says, man, all these doctors and nurses and microbiologists and immunologists and epidemiologists and other researchers keep saying COVID is dangerous. But all these dudes I went to high school with who barely passed science say it's not dangerous. It's so hard to know who to believe anymore.
Oh, my.
Yeah. It's great. It's great because this has been the attack vector that I've been seeing.
All the time.
Totally.
I've been seeing like people, this is what they have to say. This is their response. This is their argument. This is what they have to kind of maintain that little bubble around their whatever confirmation bias that keeps their thoughts intact and their beliefs, which have been force fed to them and programmed into them. And it's very frustrating. It's absolutely very frustrating.
Well, you got to look at who these immunologists and epidemiologists are, and look at. So that's the thing, is that, and I get that a lot too. It's like, well, I mean, I'm supposed to listen to you and not an expert. Well, but who are the experts, and what is this thinking that because somebody has gone through school, because somebody has pursued a certain area of study, and they're an expert in an area, that they're not also corrupt? This is blowing my fucking mind, because the issue is the people that the government and the mainstream media uses as their experts and as their, all of their chief doctors. These are corrupt individuals through and through. And most of these people have something to financially gain when this vaccine ultimately rolls out. So this isn't about not believing experts. You need to be careful which experts you're listening to. You got to look at who's got their hands in which dirty pot of money, and rely on some critical thinking, because there are plenty of experts. There are plenty of doctors. I mean, many righteous people who can look at the information and come to you with truth, who are telling the true story here.
Yeah, there's plenty of doctors and epidemiologists and microbiologists and immunologists and nurses out there that are telling you the other side, but they get silenced, they get shut down, they get deleted off YouTube.
You have to look for yourself.
They get silenced, and it's hilarious too, because we posted an article earlier saying, and it was a CNN article that really, so that's the first red flag, how it was saying that all these companies are protesting Facebook because of their censorship. And at first I was like, well, that's awesome, but at the same time, why would CNN
be on
posting,
board with that?
why would they be on board with the Facebook censorship? They love that shit.
Right.
And then when you read the article, it says, oh no, these companies are protesting because Facebook isn't censoring enough. And I was like, oh, I get it. They're on a quest to weed out all the misinformation, which is simply, just so you know, misinformation isn't lies or things that aren't true.
Right.
They are just things that go against the establishment narrative. That's what misinformation is. So when you hear misinformation, they're talking about, that's the stuff you need to pay attention to, more than likely.
Yeah.
And I just a point that came up in my mind when you're Dell just said on this week as well. They get tons of scientists and doctors that are willing to speak out, but he made the point that you wouldn't be so surprised at how many doctors and scientists that we talk to that aren't willing to put their names out there because of what we'll do with them. Well, let's leave that up for a little bit longer, because I really want to kind of break this down a little bit, and I really think some key points that people are assuming when they make this statement, that on your side is all the educated people. It's all the people on your side are educated, and you trust your side because these people have all this schooling, and that eliminates you from personally having to have any responsibility into looking into any of these issues and doing any research yourself. And I can tell you that on my side that we have had to do research. We've had to look this stuff. We've had to look at the numbers ourselves. I every single day I look at graphs on what's going on with this disease. Every single day, and it is interesting whenever I post something that's positive, all I get are people fighting it. Like, hey, there's less deaths. But not in these states. These states is blowing up. It's happening here. And
the numbers are through the roof. The numbers are through the roof. And I got one too. Is, well, just give it 2 weeks.
What are you guys waiting for? What is this hope and play into this desire to see this less than 0.5% of people die and to blame everybody else for it? What is this ultimate goal that everyone has? This shaming one another, this fighting one another, the fighting the truth. What's the agenda? I'm really curious. I'd like for people to comment and be real. What's your thought process here? What are you waiting for, and where do you think this is going? And tell me why it's a good thing. I would like to know why you think that this path that the government has us forcibly on is a good path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. This is not a good path.
I don't think you can. I don't think most people could answer when this can end. When can this end?
It can end when the people stand up, or it will not end, and that's
the truth. That's the truth. Which what we believe is completely the truth. I don't think that. I think people think that we have to get this vaccine, the vaccine unicorn.
Yep.
Anyways, but back to this too. That they assume that people on our side only are getting bad information, that we're going to the internet and getting bad information.
Yeah, that's like, oh, you're a researcher, researcher. You're a researcher. I go on YouTube. I'm a researcher.
And further than that, I mean, it's derogatory and it's name calling.
Because that's all you got.
Well, did you know I found out I was a devil worshiper this week?
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about name calling.
Yeah, good.
So, yeah, that was extra special. So, yeah, that's what happens when you try to have an intelligent conversation with somebody about why you don't agree that children should be masked. I apparently, I had no idea though, but apparently I'm a devil worshiper and I deserve to be sacrificed and die. That's what I was told a couple of days ago on a feed that my children can see. By the way,
you need to fix your teeth.
I do.
So appear to be perfect.
Oh, so yeah, I need to. I need to fix my teeth. I need to fix my face. Which I've been, if anyone can, but this was the response basically. Yeah, that's the thing. I was thinking like, what about what was said like hurt me the worst? I'm like, and for just half a moment, I was hurt about the devil worship thing, and I was just like, this shows the character. Like I wrote like, you have to scroll for this long, it was scroll, and it's articulate and it's well worded. These are examples and these are sources, and this is why I think that what you're saying isn't good. And then I got, you're a psycho, you deserve to die, devil worshiper, away from me, suffering. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So anyways, to that virtue
I would have replied, but she blocked me on Facebook before she got her little jab in, and then she was gone. So anyway, interesting. Speaking of the name calling, but that happens a lot, and it doesn't have to be that extreme. But all the time we're getting flack. And actually, I wanted to read this really quick. I thought this was excellent. It says, to denigrate something as conspiracy theory without having fully investigated the data is an act of cowardice. You cause an affront to those who offer the possibility that harm is being done to innocent people just to avoid confrontation with your own fears of it being true.
That's the whole point. That's what we're doing here. We're trying to weed out, or we're trying to pull out
the brainwashing.
But it's like, there's harm being done right here. Yep. And we are fighting against that. And believe it or not, whether you agree with what we're saying or not, we are fighting for you. Because you are the innocent victim in this. Yep. And you're the victim of the terror and the fear that's been perpetrated upon you. That is one of the biggest tragedies in history. There's just been 3 months of just fear. And
it's only the beginning. This is only the beginning. This is the beginning of the pressure on our backs. It's... Sorry. Yeah, go.
No. I heard it was actually a politician that spoke out in California. She called it fear porn. Like we've been stuck in our house, just fear porn for 3 months.
Yep.
I want truth porn, baby.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. The truth porn.
Because it won't end with this. It won't end with COVID-19 either. So if that's what people are waiting for, we're just going to get the vaccine. But it won't be the end. Like bubonic plague was the new, and then we have Bill Gates saying, "Oh, we're in the edge."
There's a new flu strain. There's the bubonic plague.
This is a plan. This is a definite agenda, and there's no rational way that you can deny that with the evidence and with it's all before you. It really is all before you.
And if you think that a virus with a 0.26% death rate is worth what we're doing right now, then there's going to be a flu.
Well, then let's vote on it, though, and that's just
They've set this up, but they've also, as we've pointed out before, they've invested billions and billions of dollars into this. They're not letting that go.
They're not going to allow that to
go.
That's where this was always going. That's where it was always going. That was the whole reason for it to be a pandemic. Yes.
This needed to happen for them to pull off the agenda that they have.
Their agenda was to vaccinate the world. COVID-19 was their excuse to do it. Your compliance to their illegal mandates is their pass to do it to all of us. So stop laying down for it.
It's the classic Hegelian dialectic. It's the problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah.
Right? They had the solution long ago. Back in 2010 when Bill Gates was saying this is going to be the decade of vaccines.
Sure.
They had the solution. They had that portion of it already figured out way along. Maybe, if you want to go into Bill Cooper land, they've been talking about this for 50, 60, 100 years.
Yeah, they have. Yep.
Okay, but at the same time, the decade of vaccines, this is not some happenstance. This is not some random occurrence of events that has Bill Gates heading this. This is all going exactly according to plan.
Yes.
And so in order to execute that plan, you have to get the consent of the public through causing a problem, waiting for the reaction, and then waiting for them to demand a solution. It's the classic problem, reaction, solution. It happens all the time. And once you are aware of that concept and see it being played, 9/11 is a great example of that too. Yep. Problem, reaction, solution. You know, they wanted, you know, the Project for a New American Century, you know, before, like year 1999, 2000, you know, they said that we need to usher in all these new privacy things. We need to usher in, like, you know, all these restrictions and surveillance and all this stuff. But unfortunately, the public will never get on board with it. We need a new Pearl Harbor in order to do it. Yeah. Right? And so within months, they had 9/11, and then they had the, you know, just so happens that the Patriot Act was all written, ready to go right there, right? It's the same formula. They do it all the time. It's problem, reaction, solution. The solution is what you're seeing right now. Although not the solution. This is what their agenda is. It's problem, reaction, agenda, basically. Yeah. And so what you're seeing now is the rollout of the agenda that they had all along. But they just needed our reaction. And in order to get our reaction, they needed to create the problem. And so it's just textbook stuff, dude. And once you recognize it for what it is and you start seeing it, it's very recognizable.
Well, just, and as free Americans, I think that, and I always will go back to this, but so even, and I know we all keep saying like it's a less than 0.5%, you know, rate of death among this illness, but really, let's just say it was higher. Theoretically, guys, if we were talking about something that was a 15% death rate, if it was a 40% death rate, I mean, we're talking huge numbers here. Even still, under the law of the land, what is happening right now is not legal and it's not right. And if all of America is indeed in agreement, then there are democratic processes in place to allow for laws and for mandates and for different things to come down and to change. But it's not meant to be in this way. And it should, and I keep saying this, but it really should terrify you, even if you're so afraid of this and you think like, oh, I wish the governors would lock us down. Even if you believe that, why would you believe they wouldn't do it in any other area that be assured that they are ruling out against us, that they have a plan? Yep. Absolutely. Yep. So, you know, it's frustrating.
Now is the time to fight back. It's not going to be the time to fight back when it becomes mandatory digital ID. No, it's like it's, you know, mandatory digital ID. Yeah. Mandatory vaccines. Otherwise, you cannot come into a grocery store. You cannot buy food.
It's going
you
there.
You cannot work.
Yep.
You cannot work unless you have the vaccine. You know, like that's what I'm afraid of. Like, you know, like I'm going to have to like not have a job if that's the case.
Exactly.
And I'm sure there's going to be millions and millions of us that are just going to have to create little breakaway intentional communities.
And now think about that. Are they going to allow that, do you think, Scott? Like, what are the chances they're going to not pull us out of our... They're not going to allow... If they have it their way, there's no way they're going to allow people to break off from their agenda. That is not part of the program. The part of the program is to maybe haul us off to FEMA camps, but is definitely not to let us just go off and garden our own, you know, and... You know, and we've got.
But we're looking into that. Yeah. The Truthzilla. We have all been talking about that, and someday we will get an episode because we see that as possibly the only future.
I feel like that we need to really just be investing in like a large plot of land, and like I was saying, like we need to get seeds, and we need to get like stuff to like, you know, survival stuff. Because and I say that like kind of with a smile, but I'm deadly serious.
Totally.
The fact that, and I am, by the way, not, and we are not the only people thinking that way. Like most individuals I talk to, I have friends who are very much on the fence about what, you know, whether or not they believe that the masks are good and what's the information they're getting and blah, blah, blah. But even friends who are in happy compliance with what's going on and not able to see a bigger picture yet are still talking about, look, I think this is going to be bad. I think I've been talking to extended family about maybe like getting land. We've been talking about maybe just like withdrawing from society. This is a big deal, guys. It's a really big deal. And we've got New York County now threatening to subpoena people who are refusing to be contact traced. Yeah. This is a big deal. And how did we go as a society from everyone being essentially for each other, you know, the broader pictures, we were all for each other. Everyone was really in a good vibration in terms of just as an economy and as a country, to we have people that are flat out, and I'm going to say the word, ratting on each other and causing strife among other individuals in public for not being in compliance with whatever these illegal mandates are. What have we become?
Exactly what they want us to.
They're gonna, and this, if you think that it's going to stop there, and if you think that you're on the one side of it where you're the one that's calling out the others, this is going to turn on you too. This agenda is not just those of us that speak out against it. It is an oppression of all of us, folks. So
and just before I want to get back to this quote one more time, is like the main thing I think that my biggest problem with what is happening here, and that I see way too often, it eliminates critical thinking, and it removes your responsibility and your liability for doing that thinking yourself. You have removed it. You have put it all on these experts. You have said, well, I trust these experts. And the reality is there is all the doctors, the nurses, the microbiologists, the immunologists, epidemiologists. There's tons of those on the other side as well, but you don't hear them because you are in echo chamber. You are in, if you watch CNN, we'll get into social media, but social media has probably become the worst echo chamber of all.
Absolutely.
It's probably become the worst. Like they only feed you things to feed your side. And that side might go. I truly believe that they feed it to you to be on just one of these two sides that's always arguing. Like you're on this side or you're this side, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But
and don't think for 2 seconds that locking us down in our houses and having everyone glued to their screens and to essentially one of or multiple of 5 to 10 media outlets. And it's all the same agenda. It's all the same information. It's all the same amount of push of censorship. They're taking down the truth as fast as you can get it up. You have to understand. Why does that not concern anybody? Why is that not concerning? Because even if you don't agree, even if you're like, well, that information is garbage, and I don't. But what in your clear thinking mind makes you feel like? So then you don't believe it. That's how it's supposed to work. It's not that you censor the world.
Digital book burning.
It totally is.
Yep.
It totally is.
Okay, well, why don't we move on to some of these other memes? We're going to go on some memes to kind of lead us into what we...
And I think it's important, too. Now, you might think that this is like hacky or whatever, but, if you think about it, right, we've talked about a little bit before how there's a quiet war being waged, right?
Yes.
Wars change their dynamics and the type of weapons that are used shift over time, right? From one war to the next war, it becomes unrecognizable, and it's arguable that this is World War III occurring right now, and it is
the beginning stages
establishment versus us, the population, the freaking the useless eaters, as they call us, right? Mm-hmm. And we are being attacked, and one of the most powerful ways that these weapons are being used against us in a psychological way is memes. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, it is the most powerful way to communicate an idea or a thought. And if you want to get into there's a lot of just almost esoteric, ritualistic energy involved in it, man. It's there's serious energy that's being put out with these things, and it's literally warfare,
Where did the ones go? Lost. Okay. Well, anyways, so yeah, these are the ones we were talking about.
Tim Dillon. Love you, Tim Dillon.
Yeah,
hilarious.
Tim Dillon. Yeah, great. But anyways, just here's the new one that I'm seeing, and we'll put a few different versions of this. Is the wear your damn mask, or wear the damn mask, which is it's just classic groupthink.
It is psychological warfare and shaming, and that is because we all want to be accepted.
And it's just such virtue signaling.
It is.
It is such just we're doing the right thing. I think that what we played at the start really says that. But the damn mask. This is all spawned from one that I've been seeing for years now. Is the vaccinate your damn kids, and we'll get into that one. And it's for some reason when you put the damn in there, it adds this extra level of insult to injury. It
makes me question. It's like, God, maybe am I really that bad of a person? God,
it puts this. It's like you have this responsibility to those around you and your community. You could be dangerous to others. And in the case of the vaccines, it's like you need to protect the immunocompromised.
Get the fuck out of my face.
It vilifies anybody who questions this narrative. And I think, but I've done my research on vaccines specifically a lot. I've talked a lot about that, and I will have a conversation with anyone who wants to me about vaccines. Anyone, I will talk to anyone who wants to tell me how good vaccines are. I will have a conversation with you. Because the reality is you don't have to be a doctor to know facts.
That's it.
You don't have to be a scientist to know facts. And there are so many facts that you can't dispute.
You cannot.
You can't dispute.
That's it.
So I, past these memes, I guess kind of to go into echo chambers, I really feel like what I want to talk about a little bit about my story of how I came to my beliefs. And it's funny, I was talking to an old friend on the phone, and he made the comment, and I think I've maybe even said it in another episode, but that people are asking me and all about all this crazy shit you're posting and stuff like that. And the reality is I had, for many years, I had a lot of friends that saw the world pretty similarly to how I did. And we kind of fed off each other. And, I feel like I was part of kind of a group think. I kind of fit in there, and there is something to that you feel good when the people around you, verify, verify your
validated,
you validate. But so just a little bit to back up here, I would say most of my adult life I've identified on the Democratic side as opposed to the Republican. When I think when I got out of high school and came out, into the real world.
And let's be real, public school is all about making sure that we are on a path of Democratic Party support.
Well, maybe when I was a kid, though, I'll just call it out. I grew up in a religious, right-wing family, and maybe part of that was my rebellion against that.
Could be.
Because I kind of came out of the good church boy, and I went into a life of drugs for many years and partied. Like, I'm not gonna, it was what it was. I'm not gonna glorify that in any ways. It's not who I am today, but that's kind of who I was. But anyways, I identified as a Democrat. I don't know if I was ever. There were points in my life where I was actually signed on to when you vote for that party or whatever,
Sure.
And there's been points where I've been independent. I kind of went back and forth, but back at that time, I remember, it was in 2000, George W. Bush was pretty terrible president, as I remember. So there was
that whole
family. There was a lot of reason to not be a Republican at that point in my life, I believe. So
we need to do a whole Bush episode someday. The whole Bush legacy, dude.
But the George W. It started in 2000. He stole the election from Al Gore. So there was that, and then it was 9/11, and it was 9/11, and personally, I was calling that out pretty quickly after it happened. And I think I spoke about this in our first episode. I had a roommate who was pretty intelligent and was pretty looking into that stuff right off the bat, so I'll give him some of the credit. But because I was kind of partying pretty hard at that point in my life, to be honest. But the things that were wrong with that were pointed out to me right away, and I knew that was bullshit. I'll just call it for what it was. 9/11 was bullshit. And if you still believe it, I don't know if I can help you at this point, because I don't know exactly who did what for what reason, but I can tell you that the narrative we've been giving is bullshit.
Well,
Complete
that
bullshit.
part is, that's kind of irrefutable if you're looking at evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you believe it, it's just because you haven't looked, and that's just it.
That's the truth.
It's the same with the COVID situation.
Yeah.
If you believe something different, then because the facts are there.
Yeah. And so I would say this was one of those points where I just lost faith in the system. I just didn't trust the system. And I've been at many points there in my adult life, I would say. And then there was Obama. And I was like, well, and his whole campaign was change. And I was like, well, hell yeah, I want change. And different people have different opinions, but I feel like my recollection, and granted, I was out there a little bit at this point in my life, was every time Obama was doing something that looked like it was good to the people, there was some shady shit going on in the background. And I was seeing all the shady shit.
I was so demoralized when he was voted in. I remember I was pulled off on the freeway crying. I was like, why am I so upset over politics? And this was then before I was even really all that. I was so blown away that nobody saw through his bullshit at that time. He was just you're saying that shady shit followed him like bad energy.
I dug the bullshit. I was like, let's change, man. Come on, let's change. I was with it. But I do remember just seeing all the stuff behind the scenes. I don't know if I remember. I think it was when he legalized gay marriage, and that was him, right? And then I'm pretty sure it was him that did that. And they lit up the White House with the rainbows and all that. But it was the same time where he was doing the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, and there was just some really shady shit going that he was doing the right behind. He's like, here, look, we're doing this, but we're also signing this shit,
That's how they do it.
And so again, I was lost faith in the system.
Well, they're trying to. Okay, so that's the game, though. They're appealing to social ideals while completely subverting anything that would actually be good for our social ideals.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the big one, though. Is like at this point, after 8 years of Obama, I'm just done. I'm like, screw politics. I don't trust anybody. I'm not getting invested in this thing. And then along comes Bernie Sanders. And I have to say at that point, and I know we might disagree, but at that point, I thought this guy is great. He's standing up to the 1%. He's going to call out these guys that are totally rigging everything to screw us all. He's calling them out. He's going to change the tax system to get them. And so we're going to all do better. We're going to bring up the bottom in this and that. And then it was, and I put a lot, he's the only candidate that I'd ever given money to his campaign. I went to see him speak in Springfield here. I was on board, whether or not, I'm getting the look, Megan, I get it.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry.
I can feel it.
God, I'm actually just taking it and I'm like, no, I'm curious.
But to me,
I
don't let the dreadlocks fool you.
I'm sorry.
But then what happens is he's totally screwed over by Hillary. I mean, that entire thing
Surprise.
is the media, and if you were a Bernie fan, that the media told you the entire time he was running that he could not win.
Yeah.
They told you he's selling out stadiums as what's his name?
Trump, maybe?
No, I'm thinking of tinfoil.
Sam
always says he's selling out stadiums while Hillary's, can barely fill a cafeteria, but the media's telling you he can never win, right? He can never win. But I was there. Just thousands of people are coming out for this guy because people want something different so desperately.
So bad, yeah.
They want something differently. They want a change in the system that's just totally screwing them, right?
So does that tell you right there that it's all corrupt and it's rigged and that we are the losers every single time?
Yep.
That's it right there.
Well, and this is the piece.
This is 2016.
This is the piece, though. Is then we know for sure that Hillary's given the. What was it before they were doing the debate and she was given the questions beforehand by Wasserman Schultz, who's corrupt as hell as well. Yeah. But and then just he got the nomination stolen from him. That straight up he got it stolen. Yeah. But then he took a knee. And I have to question whether it was just part of the game the entire time.
Yep.
Was this the whole game? Mm-hmm. And whether or not Bernie's a good guy or not, the fact that he got it stolen from him and he took a knee, I had no faith in the system again. And we'll say what we, I think we've talked. We need to do a whole episode on Trump. I think that is necessary. I have come to look at Trump certainly differently, from where I've come from.
Yeah.
There are things, I'll straight up say there are things I don't like about Trump, but they are not the things that the media told me not to like about Trump.
That's it.
And the things I do like about Trump are generally things that the media won't talk about.
You're so on point with that. I agree.
Yep. Come on, free Julian Assange, bro.
Yeah,
Leave
come
him
on.
alone. Leave him alone. He got you. He helped you get elected, man. Come on. Leave him alone.
But then, for me, and I've spoken...
Maybe, allegedly, a lot of conspiracy people out there are going to attack me for that, saying WikiLeaks is a fucking honeypot, blah, blah, blah. Julian Assange is controlled opposition, blah. Anyway, whatever.
So, for me, I've talked about probably in every episode, but the big thing was the vaccines in my children.
Yeah.
And that broke, I am 100% convinced that Big Pharma is evil as hell, and that there's complicit... in government and all of the regulating agencies are in on it.
Yes.
And it broke that for me. And so it's all just a system that's meant to screw us.
Yeah.
This is what it is, really. So
we're already enslaved to it, and they're just trying to crack down on that deeper, and you have to be able to understand that in order to be able to break away from that. And it's going to require expanding those uncomfortable places in your mind.
Yeah.
And it is super uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for all of us. This is not easy information to digest, in any of its singular particulars, and especially if you're looking at it in a broad scope. When we're looking at it from world control, and we're looking at like the CFR, we're looking at the WHO, when we're looking at, all these different agencies and who they are and who makes them up, what these people's histories are, what it is that they stand for, how it is that they govern us, how it is that they govern us without our direct knowledge, I think is or consent. Yeah. And then there's this massive agenda. There's these these news outlets that are controlled by the civ. That's it. And everybody's just laying down in the road like, well, just roll us over and let us put our mask, and let's just we'll dehumanize ourselves a little bit while we're at it. Let's get these masks on and we're going to dehumanize one another. We're not going to speak to one another. We can barely make eye contact. Now we're not going to look at each other's faces. And don't think that that dehumanizing one another is not part of the psychological agenda here, because we haven't been masked from the start. The numbers are all the way down. The deaths are all the way down. And now we're talking about needing to be masked. We're talking about, we're literally discussing whether or not they're going to daily conversations whether they're going to force us to mask our minor children. This is a huge crime against humanity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You just put it the perfect way. Like this is at this point it's just to dehumanize us.
Yes.
That's what's going on right now.
But it's easier to tell on one another when we're not human beings to one another anymore.
Or that's a great way to further divide, because when you perceive the opposite side as not even human anymore, then it's like it's.
Be aware of this, guys. Be aware. Let me encourage everyone
humans, even if you guys are, think that the masks are the solution and that the government has your best interest in mind. I still think you're human, and you better still think we are. We're all on the same team. That's the funny thing. We're all on the same team, man.
Yeah.
So, anyways, in my sorry,
you're good.
I'm changing gears a little bit, but in my path of where I've come to be today, and I feel like I escaped what was this democratic groupthink.
Yeah.
That got worse since I left. And I've heard a lot of people that have kind of made a shift that I've made. I don't think I'm like abnormal. There's a lot of people who have escaped that, but I think it's become very dangerous. It's become very dangerous. And one of the things I've realized though is since I've made this shift is how much of the echo chamber, and the social media and all of these things play how Google, your feeds, everything you're fed.
Curated search results.
Because I was on this side for so long, and all they give you is what to support that side so you can be right.
Right.
And once I started coming over to this side, they assumed, I think that the algorithms assumed that I'm a Republican now, or that I'm a libertarian, and so they feed me this stuff that feeds me on this side, and then I'm on war on this other side, and I can see it plain as day. I think we all kind of intuitively know that they do that.
Yeah.
But
to what degree do you understand how deep it is?
Switch to a different side. It's painfully obvious.
Yep.
It is painfully obvious to me to what social media and social media has become the worst of all of them.
Yes.
And you thought when they came out with this thing where everybody could be free to voice their opinions and whatnot, that it would be this new level of freedom, that it wouldn't be so controlled as the news media that you're seeing on the television. But the reality is they've learned how to control that 10 times more effectively than they were ever able to with the television. And
they've been perfecting how to do that for many, many decades, guys. This isn't like all of a sudden in the last few years or just since the COVID-19. This is something they have been planning against us, using against us, and perfecting for many, many decades. This psychological warfare, this control of information, this making sure that certain people see certain things, and making sure that we take away other information from the light of day. This is a long-standing agenda. Long-standing, and because of social media, like you say, I think we're seeing it. It's so blatantly obvious. It's so blatantly obvious. You guys, be aware. Be aware of this quiet war that's being waged, and that we are in the middle of. This is a war waged against us, and it is. And I said this probably several times already, but it is not citizens against one another over even social justice issues. This is not, and social justice issues are important, but this is not the agenda of the deep state. This is not the agenda of the powers that are in control. And the power elite intend to win. They came to win. They are going to win. Make no mistake. There's nothing that is a surprise to them. So be conscious and aware.
As we saw with the Fed, they've been perfecting this for hundreds of years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. What you were saying earlier about like the search results, there's a famous quote. I was trying to find it there real quick, but Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Alphabet, who owns Google. So if you guys didn't know, like we all thought that Google was the end all be all of like control, but actually there's a company that owns Google. It's a holding company called Alphabet.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Alphabet. And Eric Schmidt, like that's a dark dude right there. Anyway, he had a quote saying that if you do a Google search and you get more than one result, that's not a feature, that's a bug. That's a glitch. Their goal is to have, if you search something, there's only one answer, their answer.
Oh.
Yeah. So along this notes, I just want to, I thought this was a really relevant, and this is, granted, this is an old article, and it's from 2017, and it's out of the Guardian. So I'm not going to actually read much of the article because I do think that they're opinionated as well. But I'm going to read. There was this. He was Chamath Palihapitiya. I'm butchering that.
That was a really
But anyways, he's the former vice president of user growth at Facebook, and he expressed regret for his part in building tools that destroy the social fabric of how society works. Tools that destroy the social fabric of how society works. I'm just going to read you some of his
an expert,
quotes.
guys. That's an expert saying that. Okay.
Yeah, he left Facebook, and he will not let his kids use Facebook. He doesn't use Facebook anymore because he realized how bad this thing was.
It is.
He said that the short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruths. He said, this is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem. It is eroding the core foundation of how people behave by and between each other. He said, and it exploits a vulnerability in human psychology. Mm-hmm. Social validation feedback loop. Ooh,
yes,
that's a big one.
So you post something, right? And then you wait all day to see how many likes, or if you see that one particular person likes it, or thumbs, or if they heart it, or why did they do a thumb up and not a heart, or why did this person not like it? It's just like, and then eventually, like, that post fades away. And then it's like, oh, I need that again. I need that rush again. Feedback loop.
Yeah. So, and I just, that's pretty much the main points I wanted to make. This is someone who worked at Facebook and was doing this, and just he's a whistleblower, and he had to leave and get out of there. And I think, but I don't think people. I think we all know intuitively that this is being done to us. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even think it's hidden, really.
It's not hidden. It's blatant.
Your Google search or your Google feed is created to be for you, right? But you don't think that they are putting the things that they want you to see there?
Right.
But I really, if you make any shift in your life, watch how that changes. Watch how they feed you the argument. And watch how that becomes, it's not you thinking anymore.
Right.
It's not you thinking anymore. That's why these memes we put up here.
It's them telling you what you think. It's them telling you what opinion you have.
Yeah. And that's why I primarily get all of my information from alternative media these days and do my own research.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like that's
you have to. It's the only way to actually have true information.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've gotten to the point to where when any established narrative comes out, I'm just immediately like, okay, well, yeah, we already know this is inaccurate. We already know this is biased. And what is it that they're trying to distract me from or divert my attention to, and what's really going on? And if you just make a habit of doing that, just on the daily with one issue on the day, invest in yourself 5 to 7 minutes a day. You will not be sorry.
Mm-hmm. I've said it before, but half the time with these articles, we've become headline readers.
Yeah.
As well.
Mm-hmm. I'm guilty of that.
Half the time, you talked about at the start of the episode, here's what this CNN article was saying about people.
And if I didn't know what CNN's agenda was, I probably would have just rolled with it. Yeah, they're all against
it. But if you read the article and the information contradicts the headline, especially in mainstream media, I question I would ask you to if you're going to read a headline and believe it, you have to follow up with the information. Mm-hmm. You have to.
Yep, you owe it to yourself.
Yeah.
Like the only time I ever watch CNN or Fox, dude, is like if I'm at the gym and I'm on the stair stepper. Like I'm usually watching something on my phone, right? Usually like some Edge of Wonder TV or some tinfoil hat or something, just something good, right? Some alternative media like we're talking about, James Corbett. Something. But right, and then every now and then I'll glance up at the TV and I'll just like see what's going on CNN. And I just get sick to my stomach, dude.
Yep.
Or Fox News, I'm like, oh, there's the agenda. That's what the deep state's up to today. All right, that's great, lovely.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's so blatant. It's so blatant, and it's just so disgusting. It's pathetic.
It is pathetic. It totally is. You're so right.
And I would say though, to this point of the echo chambers though, and like what I was getting at with how I've been switched to getting this new feed, like I think we are all subject to it at the same time though. Mm-hmm. We're all like, I have to remove myself and be mindful, take a step back, look from above, like what am I thinking today, and what is the other side, because I can see myself getting trapped into new ways of thinking too. It's because even though I use DuckDuckGo, I use Google for some things.
Yeah, it's good. But if you're doing if you're doing specific searches, if you're searching specific .gov sites or .mil sites, you do a little. There's certain ways that you can hack it. They're called Google Dorks. Look into it. There's certain little tricks that you do to use this Google search algorithm to find real specific information that you really want to get at. But
there's also issues that I do want a feed of things I want, like some of my interests. It's kind of nice to get a feed that's fed off of previous things I've looked at. So there are areas where I am okay with the Google and Facebook feed feature. But at the same time, it's just you have to be aware that there is an agenda and that they feed you according to divide us, is what I truly believe. Yep. I truly believe that they feed you the argument so you can argue with this other side.
Well, because divided, we can't rise against them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, if we are separated, we can't stand against them. We can stand against each other. That's what they hope. That's what they're pushing. That's what's happening. Yeah. They want to stood against each other.
Yeah, instead of spending all this energy on this podcast trying to debunk COVID or argue with whether or not face masks are legitimate or not, I want to be saying, okay, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do today to take this system down? And that's a funny thing too. All sides of it, we all just want to take the system down, dude. What the hell? I don't know, man. And so but somehow they've orchestrated this way where now we're fighting with each other and we're arguing about, you wear your mask. No, you take your mask off. No, you wear your mask. No, you wear your mask.
You're not supporting the right cause. You're not supporting the right cause in the right way.
Yeah, you're not supporting the right cause that you're being told to support today, and it's just that groupthink is such a huge detriment, man. And it's just I was looking up a little bit earlier, the whole concept of groupthink, right? You want to fit in. It's just a basic survival instinct that goes way back to our little caveman days, right? Where you don't want to be ostracized from the group, because that could limit your ability to eat, right? For example, it's just a core thing in us. And like it said, that it exploits, these social media outlets exploit that within us. We don't want to be ostracized from the group. We want to put out our best face forward. And if we're seeking information, so it talked about there's two different types of ways that you can be influenced by a group. The first one is informative influence, which is where you don't know the answer to something, so you go to a group of people who you assume has the right answer, and you adopt that into your, how you're convinced. And there's two ways of demonstrating that. There's being publicly convinced and being privately convinced. So if you can take that information and you can show the world that you're convinced on it, but in the privacy of your own home, I don't really believe that shit.
Right.
But then there's also where it's become, you've internalized it, you've adopted that to your core beliefs, and then it's something that you are convinced of privately. The other form is called normative influence, and this is the scary one, and this is really what I think is going on right now.
Yep.
It's where you may have an idea in your head, or you may think that there might be something wrong, or something is not what you believe it to be. However, everybody else in your group or there's a large group of people who believe it. And so therefore, just to fit in and not ostracize from yourself from the group, you're going to believe it and you're going to go along with it. And that is dangerous.
That is very
so dangerous.
I'm seeing that a lot.
Normative influence when it comes to groupthink is what's happening. And it's taking us all out.
Yeah.
And I would say, as a man, I think it comes down to some core fears being a man of being looked down upon by people around you, being criticized. I think these are some of our deepest, darkest fears as men. I'm not saying that women don't have that as well, but as men, it's part of just our societal upbringing. I think we don't want to stand out from the group. We don't want to shake the boat. And I've honestly just had to get over that.
Yep.
Because the reality is when I had my issue with the vaccines, there's not a greater stigma in the world. I truly believe there's nothing more stigmatized than being, against mandatory vaccines.
Yeah,
I won't say that anti-word that you guys love so much because it's bullshit.
It is.
Anti-vaxxers.
But anyways, I think once you can get past that, though, it is so empowering as a human being to actually have your own beliefs and to know that you've looked things through yourself, and that somebody else, not what someone else thinks doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
What, like, when you can get to that point,
then you become a light to others, though, and then people do truly come to you to hear, to want to know what it is that. How do you have this light within you? How do you have this wisdom, and how do you go about getting it? And that's what we need to be pushing to one another. That's what we're trying to push to one another.
And we should, we
mention it all the time, man. Big Tree, Del Big Tree, James Corbett. Like,
get
out there.
We're pointing you in the right directions. But also don't do just that.
Yeah.
Find the data yourself. Look, that's what we want, is just us all to be critical thinkers, because I want to learn from other people. I want to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm constantly questioning my own beliefs. I got something fed to me, and I'm just going to bring up out of the blue here. You guys probably never heard this, but someone sent me this link for these COVID-19 long haulers. And there's a Facebook group for them, and there's people that have had COVID-19 for basically the duration of the whole epidemic, for 3-4 months. And I don't know if it's BS or not, but I'm going to question it and I'm going to look into it. I'm not going to immediately have my opinion, because I want to research it first before I have an opinion. Because I don't think, I could be wrong on aspects of this, even though I think overall we have the right agenda, but there are pieces of this we might be wrong on. And that's okay. We have to be willing to challenge our own beliefs.
Yep, and that's the other thing too. We said it a couple weeks ago. If you could name one thing that the experts or the media has gotten right in their reporting of COVID-19, please let us know, because we would love to talk about it.
I'd love to talk about it.
Just one thing.
Really super curious.
Yet nobody, not a single person.
I would be curious to hear some research behind those people who are so on board with this mask mandate. Where's your research? All the research that I have done says it's bullshit. Absolute and complete, total bullshit. And if you're worried, then you put one on. But I don't want to fucking wear one. So we can find me on social media. Please reach out to me. I'm curious.
And the reality is I believe they can come up with some studies, but they won't be peer-reviewed studies.
Yep,
the good peer-reviewed studies show that there's not much benefit, but most of those studies have been done in a way to test whether you're going to get something rather than you're spreading it. So they haven't really done these mass studies on this overall thing, but we've made this judgment that we're going to make this mandate. But again,
why do we all need to wear it then? So if you feel like it's going to keep you, and I worked with some people who were double and tripling masks up. I mean, cloth over the little flimsy medical one.
You know who you are.
Yeah, you guys know who you are. So if you're afraid, let them bring your groceries to the fucking curb. You know what I mean? You wear a mask.
We can go into COVID.
You keep your kids and keep schooling them from home. You do that. But for anybody to think that this is okay to do to an entire to the human race, is beyond rational thought. It is beyond rational thought.
And I would say that the biggest part, aside, because we could go on COVID forever, and we can always go on COVID. We're very passionate about that.
We'll probably do it.
But I
this
think
was a huge trigger
in the context of the echo chamber argument that we're presenting to you right now, what the real problem is, in my mind, is that there is some little bits of science on both sides, but you're not willing to talk about it is the problem.
Yeah.
If we're willing to have a real conversation about this and get down to the science in this and that,
let's do it.
It's just, it gets shot down, and we're just immediately bad guys. We're the meme. We're the stupid high school people that got their information off the internet or whatever, know. But the reality
we're the ones
is,
speaking out for the innocent.
we're looking at all the science on the other side of it as well. Whether or not you see the New World Order coming or not, there is science on the other side that we've looked at.
Right.
We've looked at both
truth.
sides for you, and we've come to the conclusion. No, I'm just saying.
You can keep your head in the side and the sand, and that is not going to stop the New World Order from running through your household and your life.
Yep. As soon as you start coming at me with all that bullshit, it's I can automatically, I say it all the time, I hear that programming. Those aren't your thoughts. I hear your programming talking right now, and that tells me automatically that you haven't looked into it for yourself, and your opinion is pretty much invalid. Sorry.
And that just comes down to the big point that I think we are always trying to make, is where think to yourself, is this my thought?
Is this my thought?
Is this my thought? Where did this come from?
Why do I believe?
Why do I believe this? And did someone tell me to believe it? Did someone tell me to believe this, or did I go research it and find it myself?
I've had to do that myself too recently. I'm like, is this the psyop? Is that they're having this big movement of people that are not approving of the mask, or are very outspoken against the mask, so that we can all be wiped out by this disease? Like, am I wrong? I don't know. I don't think so, though.
There's just no excuse in this day and age to not open we're all laying on our backs on our mattresses at least once a day, looking at our freaking phones, scrolling through Facebook to no positive end. So there's no excuse to not research. There is zero excuse. And I am super guilty of this, because I will have lists of things that I need to be looking into and then end up scrolling Facebook. So, I mean, I get it. Yep. But also I get it, and I'm awakened. And so if you're still hiding in the dark with your mask, if you're still waiting for them to tell you it's A-okay to be a human being with your liberties again, if you're still waiting for this vaccine, then use a few minutes a day, because there's no excuse not to. Everybody is sitting there on their telephones. You can do this.
It's, again, I mean, you're saying the thing that we all spend some time in social media. It's the world we live in, and I'm not saying to give it up, but be mindful about it. Step back from it a little bit and look at it, and look at where the information's coming from, and be mindful that it's not yours. It's not your information. Yeah. And look if question everything. And I know there's I remember in school they would act like they wanted you to question everything. They're like, you really need to question things, but just not all this.
Yeah, don't question any of that.
Just to be really question everything, but just not all this stuff that we told you.
Well, all through my schooling, I was definitely fed a very specific agenda, very specific official narratives, very specific. My own children have been in public school at times. There is an agenda. There is an agenda, and the agenda is to make sure that the full capacity of our brains are not utilized. There is a very specific agenda to make sure that we think only the thoughts that they tell us, that we feel only the feelings that we feel, that we have sympathies or affinities for certain things that have happened throughout history, or certain things that happen throughout our communities, with no respect to free thought, with no respect to different sides of issues, and with no ability for any of us to even think for ourselves that we might need to look into these things, and we might need to research, and we might need to question things. They make sure of that from early on. And if you look at the agenda, also, you can go back in decades, look at this, earlier and earlier, they want kids in these public indoctrination centers. Why is that? Because psychology would tell you it's not in their best interest. It is not in their best interest to be away from their parents earlier and earlier. It's not in their best interest to be indoctrinated for that many hours a day. It's not normal human nature for children to sit still. And then I would go off forever on this too. But now we enter all these children who, by their very nature, being human beings, can't and don't want to sit still in class. And so now let's roll out the drugs to keep them under control. This all over. But it kind of goes back to this view that and really we're not even given in school. We're talking about how we all had to wake up. Well, there's a reason why we weren't all awake. There's a reason why we didn't, definitely. Because we were all taught very specific singular agendas, and it is the very specific singular agenda that I am still seeing play out now. I'm just awake to it. Sure. So it's easy to get lost to that. It's easy to get lost to not having free thought. That is a big deal, but it's also pretty easy to get out of it a little bit at a time.
It's scary though, and it hurts.
And I would say that as we're probably going to wind down here soon, one of the things that I think happened this week that was really interesting to me, that's maybe a little bit separate, but so I had this post that was going back and forth on masks and whatnot, and there was a point in it. And again, I think dialogue between people that disagree with me is totally welcome, as long as no one's insulting each other. And I think it was, for the most part, a fairly healthy dialogue going on. But at one point, I went off for a while about just what I see the mask representing, and that's the vaccines and the ID passports, all the things that we've talked
Digital
about
currency.
before. Yeah,
It's
digital
your
currency,
enslavement. It's your enslavement that you go where they
That's what
say, that you do what they say, that you let them put whatever toxins and poisons and agendas into your body and whatever, an experiment on us as a population. Sorry, I'll keep going.
No.
But
It's just, and what was interesting is after I went off on this, and people were, I think, taken back a little bit, but I had two different friends who basically just said, "Yeah, but that's inevitable."
Yep, I remember. Yep.
But that's inevitable.
Keep hope safe, guys.
Like even though I still think they disagreed with me on the masks and the virus, whatever. It's not like I won an argument, but at the same time, it's like I'm saying what this represents and where it's going, and you're like, yeah, but that stuff's inevitable.
there are
Like,
people
it's
with
just gonna
foregone
happen.
conclusion that you're
Being
just
black-pilled.
Yeah.
and guys, don't give in to that.
We
That is
can't-
the
that's
worst
scarier than any of
apathetic,
it to me.
seriously
Yeah.
terrifying.
What's the point? It's just gonna happen anyway.
Come on now. And it's not a foregone conclusion. I mean, it feels that it is. But it's not yet. It's not yet.
We are the many, they are the few.
Yes.
We are here to awaken more people, and if the more awake we are, the less power they have.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that you've talked about, Scott. I mean, if enough of people get on board, we can have what are the no
Days of noncompliance.
days of
Days of
noncompliance.
noncompliance.
We can do these things. We can starve them out. We have the ability, but we need more of us.
Yep.
Because we can't do it as a small group. We need to be the many.
Yep.
And we need to unite. And the reality is left side, right side, libertarian, green, all this shit is just meant to divide
further
us.
divide
And it's
us.
all BS. And the reality
it really is.
I am not any party anymore. I
Right.
have left all these labels behind
Yes.
for
Yes.
that reason of that it keeps me from critical thinking on each individual issue.
Yeah.
It hinders me. It actually
Yes.
it tries to put you in a path where they can feed you on your social
Yep.
media,
Yep.
where they can tell you what to think, where they can implant the thoughts for you. I am over that, and today I am against the tyrannical overlords that we talk about every week.
Yep.
That's what we're trying to rise up against.
Totally, man. Like, I'm extremely liberal on lots of things, and I'm very,
Totally.
I would say, like, libertarian on a lot of things, right?
Yep.
That's just straight up how it is, man. Like, I can see both sides to a lot of things. It's very nuanced, man. You just shoot yourself in the foot if you play the whole identity politics game, where it's like, if they know what your opinion is on this one thing, then they automatically know what all your opinions are because you play the identity
Line
politics
you
game.
up.
Yeah.
That is just horrible. And the one thing that really is, I don't know, worth mentioning, I guess. Like, it just stood out to me this week. It's just like, okay, it seems like all the people that are so, for the masks, all in support of, like, the Kate Brown mandatory, all this stuff, all that stuff. It seems to be a very left-leaning thing. Why is that, dude? It blows my mind.
It's science.
But what it is I think is that mostly on the left side, it's a very, the whole socialism thing, thinking that big government is here to solve all of our problems and that they are the ones that are going to be the solution. Big government's here to save us. That's kind of the socialist idea, right? As long as the government controls business, which is straight up like communist, like socialism right there. As long as that's in place, then we'll be fine. As long as the government controls everything. And so that's why I think they're so bought into it, is because it's just that inherent mentality of the fact that
They don't want to take care of themselves.
Government is here to protect us, and they're telling us that we need to do this in order to be protected. And I don't agree with that, even though I'm extremely liberal on a lot of things. I
Definitely.
no.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep, I agree with
Definitely.
you.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna wrap up. So I guess I just want to say, guys, let's stand on truth. So right, no more siding with any particular party. We're about standing on truth. We're moving forward in a new way, and the only way to do that is on that singular path. So sitting here with Scott and Ed, we're so thankful that you guys joined us, and we wish you intellectual prosperity.
Peace.